FOJCRadio. David and Donna Carrico, the dynamic duo of followers of Jesus Christ. Nah, we're just regular people. We're just loving and serving the Lord, and we challenge you to love and serve the Lord and learn all that you can about Him. We're preaching the gospel of the kingdom and teaching the doctrine of Christ to the whole world. And thanks again for listening to our programs, and blessings to all of you.
Esther Jades Limited. Homemade, clean, natural. Baby Soft Healing Cream. All organic healing balm for all over skin care for baby and mother's tender nipples if breastfeeding. No harsh chemicals or essential oils, just organic chamomile and calendula infused into coconut and sweet almond oils and blended with super moisturizing shea butter and non-nano zinc oxide to heal chapped or dry skin, rashes, eczema, cradle cap and psoriasis. Cloth diaper safe and safe for sensitive and thin skin. 4-ounce clear plastic jar for $18 plus shipping. Pain Buster Cream. Improved even more. 10% menthol, hojari green frankincense resin and DMSO for deep penetration. 8 organic herbs infused in organic castor oil, no avocado oil, cayenne, cloves, juniper berry, arnica, oregano, skullcap, lemongrass and lavender. With extracts of cayenne, hops, ginger, oregano, skullcap, St. John's wort and rosemary. Aloe vera and vitamin E, much less beeswax so absorbs even better. 500 mg CBD with just enough THC extract to increase the CBD potency. Pain-killing organic essential oils wintergreen, lavender, frankincense, and rosemary. 3.5 ounces clear plastic jars for $42 plus shipping. Find us on Facebook today. Esther Jades Limited. Homemade, clean, natural.
It's time to shake and wake up the world with the best biblical talk shows from all over the world gathered in one place. ShakeandWakeRadio.com, where the truth is all that matters, and the truth will set you free. ShakeandWakeRadio.com. And welcome everybody to Spiritual Warfare Friday, and welcome to this awesome broadcast today. We got a lot to learn today. So the title of the broadcast tonight is Order of Oddfellows and Ancient Secret Societies we're going to get into. And as you all know, we cover a great abundance about secret societies and everything else. And I'm just excited for this because I learned a lot about Freemasonry over the years, different cults and everything else, and we expose all this stuff. And one of them that I did not know anything about was the Oddfellows. I didn't even know they existed. And but when you look at these secret societies, guys, there's hundreds, probably thousands who, for what we know. But it's always great to learn this stuff. And I guess Cody Cox here, he's a former member of the Oddfellow Club. So before we get going, guys, a couple things here. Thank you for tuning into Spiritual Warfare Friday. Order of the Oddfellows and Ancient Secret Societies. And after the show, we got a questions and answers show up on Rumble where you can call in the show if you want, or in the comments. And if you want to bring up other subjects too, it's a free-for-all basically. And we can sit there and chat, and it's pretty cool. So I want to thank ShakeAwakeRadio.com and BeFortunNews.com for carrying this show on an awesome, amazing network. And also, guys, please, if you have not subscribed to FOJC Radio and the Doctrine of Christ, we're doing actually a series with them right now coming up, and it's called Choose This Day for Whom You'll Follow. It's a special events page that's up on, let me get to that. FOJCRadio.com is David Carrico's main website. So if you go to the website, you click on special events. And we got this whole series coming up, Choose to Stay Whom You May Follow. It's basically a series coming up because we are moving to the month of October and November. We got a lot of these satanic and pagan holidays and feasts coming up of the Doctrine of Christ. So if you're watching this on Thursday, if you're on FOJC Radio Thursday, which is what happens, we do the live shows on Fridays here, and it gets aired on FOJC on Thursday. So we thank Brother David Carrico and Sister Donna Carrico, and also Brother Brian Reese for carrying our show on that awesome, amazing network. So anyway, I want to thank EstherJades.com as well for their awesome holistic stuff that literally helps. I mean, the best way, I'm trying to say it without YouTube getting, all angry about it, So anyway, discover the power of holistic wellness for mind, body, and spirit. Transform your life with natural solutions. And it's Esther Jades. Their Facebook page is right there. So scan the code bar. Just go to Esther Jades on Facebook. You'll find them. So anyway, without further ado, before we get going, we need to pray first. Very important to do with these kind of matters because we're exposed to some dark stuff. And I know guys get questions like, I thought you were a Christian channel. I thought you guys spoke Bible, but why are you always talking about and showing thumbnails of Satan and everything else? Because here's the thing. Knowing spiritual warfare is it is the second best thing you should know as coming into the faith. Number one, we all could agree with, knowing Jesus Christ is number one. Number two is spiritual warfare. That's why I call it spiritual warfare, the show, because spiritual warfare is something everybody should know. I don't care if you're, a 70-year-old, 15-year-old, whatever the case. Spiritual warfare is very important to know because the thing is, spiritual warfare affects every one of us. And if we do not know the wiles of the devil, as the Bible says, to put on the full armor of God, to know your enemy and expose it. If you don't do that, guys, you're going to be swallowed up by the enemy. Look at how many churches, mainstream churches out there right now, they have members of secret societies that belong to them, even pastors. And, all the stuff we talk about, evolution, all that. Christians are learning this stuff, and the church is not telling people the dangers of this stuff. So that's what we're here for, and to do this stuff. So let's join us in the prayer, please. And so, Yeshua, Jesus, Messiah, we come before you and thank you for everything you do for us. And please forgive us all individually of the sins and trespasses, transgressions, or even abominations that any one of us commit. And we ask you to purify us with your precious blood. And Heavenly Father, we ask for wisdom and knowledge today. We ask you for divine guidance and protection with your Holy Spirit, Lord, to come in part of our hearts, to give us this great wisdom and comfort. And as we expose some dark stuff today, Lord, that some good people who may be involved with these dark things, that may come to the light, come to you, Lord, come to the cross, and come out of Babylon. And we ask you with all our hearts and souls, we love you with all hearts and souls. In your mighty name we pray, amen and amen. So without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Cody Cox, former member of the Oddfellows. So what is the Oddfellows? And first of all, introduce yourself, and what is the Order of the Oddfellows?
Shalom, brother.
Shalom.
It's awesome to be on here, man. Thanks for having me on again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the Oddfellows it's a fraternal order. It started over in England, but it made its way over here. It's seen a lot of transition and growth. There's been schisms and separate orders independent of each other, kind of with same symbols. So it's an evolving order. They would claim their order as one of being progressive. But yeah, so it's basically a fraternal order, a secret society that I was a part of. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and as you all know, we exposed a lot of this stuff on. We had former Masons on, former Illuminati, former Mormons, this, that, and the other thing, and it's always interesting because me as a host, I'm constantly learning myself. I'm do a lot of studies for these shows and everything else, and when you bring these great guests on, especially the ones who come to the Lord, who come out of this stuff like Cody Cox, who's come to the Lord and come to the cross and to learn this take this knowledge that he learned in the occult and to bring it to light to show people. And actually, before we get going even further, I do want to show these Bible verses here that relate to everything we're talking about today. So Luke 8:17 says, "For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything be hid that shall not be known and come abroad." So all the darkness is going to be brought out of the shadows into the light. And Luke 12:2-3 says, "For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, nothing hid that shall not be known. Therefore, whatever you have spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light, and that which you have spoken in the ear and closets shall be proclaimed upon the housetop." So what he's saying here, that's the verses here, I'm sorry, and change the screen, but yeah, those are the verses I just read there. And yeah, so what those scriptures are saying is all secrets got to be revealed one way or another. I mean, you could have a sworn oath of secret, because secret societies, you take a lot of sworn oaths even on your life. Now we got scriptures later on to talk about that as well. But one way or another, one day, all these secrets will be revealed. So like I said, everything that's in the shadows is all going to be brought into the light. And when you expose these things, and now, for example, right, you could have a group of elitist people, billionaires, years and years and years and years of planning, countless money involved with it, countless people involved, right? Guess what? It would only take maybe 2 minutes of truth to derail the whole operation. That's how powerful truth is. That's why they want you to shut up. They don't want you to learn this stuff in schools and everything else. That's why they go above and beyond to go after people like us to shut our mouths and cause conspiracy theorists and everything else. Because, again, 2 minutes of telling the truth would derail years and decades, even hundreds of years of their planning. So, and I'm so blessed to have Cody on today to talk about this. And again, because I had no clue what the order of Oddfellows were, so I'm blessed to have this. Yeah. So, brother, so what made you join it? And first of all,
man, so and I did kind of want to give a precursor, if you're okay with.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just with the nature of these shows, I just want to kind of say this to anyone who is a member currently, or anyone who might be listening. My intent in this is not to necessarily say anything negative about any members. I have nothing but respect for all the members of the old lodge I was a part of. They were nothing but truly were brothers to me, and these are just are people who are deceived. And so my heart in this is not to reveal any secrets. It's not to reveal any of the hidden, tokens or signs or grips or anything that is in the obligations that are binding, even if you leave. And so even though I have broken and released my covenant that I had made with this order and asked God to break those ties and have, rescinded my membership, I still want to be, to do it in a curated and an honorable way, to where without revealing things that may, members would see it as like, man, this is going about it all wrong. A lot of times, really, if you were to reveal what really goes on in lodges today, it would maybe make you have a little bit of respect for these people, because the immense amount of good that they do in the community, Oddfellows specifically. But like I said, there is some just heavy deception going on. And I think that there's a lot of good members who are just not aware of a lot of the stuff. So my intent is for believers out there to stay away from these orders, and for those who are in the order to just think about the stuff that I bring to light. Think about the things that you've experienced being in the order, being an initiate, and you'll see things and you'll notice things that I won't even have to say, that I pray the Father would allow to prick your heart. But I wanted to kind of say that I have no malicious intent towards any of these members or any of these people, but I truly, as Jesus loves them, like I do have love for them, and I want them to come out and to have the true light and freedom from the false light. And so that's kind of my hope for tonight, that there would be some unchaining from that mystic chain that they're so familiar with. But yeah, to answer your question, my brother, a couple of my teachers in high school that I really respected and looked up to were members, and they invited me and told me kind of like all the good that they were doing in the community and stuff, and invited me to come check it out. And so that was really my kind of way in. I ended up finding out that like my great grandfather was a member, and so that kind of piques your interest even more if you've got some blood relatives from a while back that were also into some of this stuff. So I was really just looking for that sense of brotherhood and looking for a way to give back, but also I guess to belong and to have that, like I said, that brotherhood. So that's initially kind of what led me in that direction.
Yeah, and I wanted to point that out too. Glad you brought that up. Like when we do our masonry shows and everything else, just want to point out, just because your grandfather or your neighbor might be an odd fellow, whatever the case, it doesn't mean they're a bad person. And I have to express that vividly, because there are a lot of great people who have wonderful intentions, wonderful hearts, who do belong to these secret societies. But again, they are being hoodwinked. You know what I'm saying? So they're not necessarily evil people. Not all of them are part of the cabal. And we understand that these orders, at the top, these are some nefarious people who have nefarious agendas, Luciferian and everything else, but doesn't mean everybody else does either. You know what I mean? So and the thing is, they love nothing more to lure real good people, even especially Christians, into their society, because it masquerades what they are at the top. You know what I mean? So they love using good people to masquerade what they're really doing behind the closed doors and all that. Now, I'm not saying about the odd fellows, I don't know nothing about them to say that, but I'm just saying in general, secret societies. You know what I mean? And so all we can do is pray for these people and help, try our best to help them get out of Babylon, so to speak. You know what I mean? So that's my statement for that. Disclosure that not everybody who belongs to these things is a bad person or part of the cabal. You know what I mean? So it's like the CIA. You have interns in the CIA, you have janitors in the CIA, you even have new people that work for the CIA. Doesn't mean every one of them know the corruption and what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with the FBI. We go down the list of this stuff, but I'm just saying that just because somebody belongs to this, you need to pray for them and all that, try to help them out of it and do your best to do that. Because a lot of people will be like, oh, he's a Freemason, he's a Satanist or something like that. That's not the case. You know what I mean? So we need to understand that. And then here's the thing too. Why a lot of people join secret societies? Because a lot of people grow up and they're outcasts. Most of these people, a lot of, so when they grow up and they, get welcomed into a club, they feel like they're part of something. They're like a team, right? You join a wrestling team or a football team and you get accepted, right? And all of a sudden you feel part of the family, a brotherhood. That's where it comes from, right? The brotherhood. You feel part of something. So you feel good inside and everything else. And that's what they do, especially people out there who are outcasts and all. They love nothing more. Come on in. We'll make you feel at home and everything else. And unfortunately, a lot of these secret societies will misuse that to change you into something that you're not supposed to be, that God does not intend you to be. You know what I mean? So again, it's about people who are lonely, basically, who want to feel part of something. And that's a lot of reasons why people join covens, cults, secret societies, and all that.
Well, man, and it's what's so specifically unique about Odd Fellowship is it is so subtle. Like, and we'll cover. I don't want to jump ahead, but it doesn't have the same. There's a lot of stuff in Masonry and stuff as you go through the degrees where it's clearly not biblically derived. They come from a lot of different sources. with the modern day Odd Fellowship, it's all pulled from the Bible. So the appearance of what is modern Odd Fellowship doesn't appear to be anything evil, or when I brought a lot of these things to the guys in the lodge, they had no idea what I was talking about. And I've even made comments and pulled different things from historical things that I had found, and have been kind of met with some rejection on, oh, well, that's not accurate historically, or that's this or that. And now a lot of that's coming to light, and they're actually owning up to it and publishing it. So I'm going to kind of, in a way, I don't want to pull from anything that would be a secret writing. They have actually posted a lot of literature on their website. So I figured a good way to maybe reach some of these guys is to use the literature that the order itself and Sovereign Grand Lodge has provided to non-members on these websites, and then to just kind of talk about the history. And if we're dealing with a stream that has a lot of different little streams breaking off of one main source, if that source has been poisoned, even if it's a little poison down at the end, it's still, we want to be aware and not be taking in any lies or deception. And we want to have that truth that we have freely in Christ. So, it's just, it's very interesting to say the least, but it is, like you said, it is majority good men who have no idea, and they are looking for that brotherhood.
Yeah, and what Cody's going to do too, he's going to show you right from the horse's mouth. So this way, nobody can accuse him of making stuff up and conspiracy theories and all that, funny stuff. Exposing right from the horse's mouth. Like when we do, we show you things right from their own doctrines and not, publications and all that stuff, so people cannot doubt you. You know what I mean? And so I got that website up if you need it, the Independent Order of the Odd Fellows. This is our actual official website, the Sovereign Grand Lodge, and it's fellowship.org. So this is their actual website for to take notes here. If you want, I got the website up if you need it.
Oh, okay, yeah. So on the history tab over there, there's a area for international history. So I'm not going to read all of this, but what I really just want to kind of talk about is what they believe and what they are stating is the origin. So this is from a quote from Theo Ross, and we'll read some of his stuff here in a little bit. But he says, Odd Fellowship does not seek veiled origin in the misty shades of the past to surround it with the false glamour that arises from the belief in the doctrine of omni ignotum pro magnifico. The age of enlightenment has emaciated us from the gross credulity of the past, and antiquity bears with it no passport of truth or goodness. And what they are kind of saying here, and this is what you'll look if you can research the origins, to the listeners yourself. But to the members, I would say, it says right here, the exact date of the first founding of Odd Fellowship is lost in the fogs of antiquity. Some historians trace its roots back to the medieval trade guilds of the 12th and 13th centuries. Others estimated that it existed before 1650. What is clear is there were a number of Odd Fellows groups in England in the 1700s. It's said that the titles of the officer of the lodge were taken from the Order of the Gregorians, which met at St. Albans in May of 1736. Other evidence suggests that our origins were an organization known as the Ancient Order of Bucks, which thrived in England in the 18th century and had its emblem of 3 bucks with their antlers intertwined. These men had as their leader the most noble grand and met in clubrooms and taverns. One of their principal emblems was a bundle of sticks, familiar to modern Odd Fellows as signifying strength in union. And a little lower, it says the earliest surviving printed Odd Fellows Lodge record is said to be the Rules of Loyal Aristarchus, Lodge number 9 in England, dated March 12, 1748. This establishes the fact that this lodge has been operating from some time prior thereto, and its number indicates that at least 8 other lodges that are associated with each had existed up until that time. So I kind of want to stop there and make kind of a comment, because there is the oldest lodge ritual that they had their hands on it. So I had to really work to get it whenever I was in the order and when I was asking questions. But it's from what was called the ancient, what was it called? Loyal Order of Oddfellows. So it had a slightly different name, but it was from 1797. And, like this is saying right here, that evidence suggests that the origins were in an organization known as the Ancient Order of Bucks. And I sent you a picture, Dan, regarding this ancient order. But a quick history on them, and it's very important, is this was a Bacchanalian society that worshipped Nimrod. And so in their odes and in their rituals, what they would do is they would sing these songs, and it would be like, "Hail Nimrod." They called him the first buck of their order. They were saying he was the first noble grand of this order. They would actually have initiations, and after the initiate was brought into the order, he would put horns of the buck on his head. And I've actually, I brought this up, and this was one of the facts that was kind of denied. And so it's very interesting, just with that alone, is that we're seeing that they're coming out and they're saying that there is derivatives from these other orders, right? So right away, we have a society who is pulling from, and other writings say, the nucleus of this order called the Ancient Order of Bucks. And they're giving alms and praise to Nimrod. So there's a lot more symbols that we'll touch on later on that will point back to Nimrod and Nimrod worship and stuff like that. But I find that extremely interesting, that it is on here. And I sent, let's see, a picture. And you can actually see it is the Oddfellows regalia, and it was a pin that was found. And
you all see an eye on top and the buck in the middle?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and that's the only thing I've ever found with the encampment on the left, the Patriarch's Militant, and you see the buck, which is not a symbol of this order. And also you'll see that evergreen tree, which they were, that was kind of the theme of that lodge. And that was often seen in a lot of their stuff with that.
You spoke of Babylon too, because the evergreen also is because December 25th is the only tree that lives during the winter basically, and it's flourished. But I mean, it's weird because it's associated with Nimrod and his son Tammuz. You know what I mean? And they believe that his son Tammuz was killed by a wild boar. I guess he ran them into a pine tree or whatever the case, oak tree. And then the next slide, you got Cupid's an odd fellow. So Cupid is another version of Tammuz, which is Horus, this Nimrod's son. He wanted to be a mighty hunter like his father there. And he's also, the reason I call him Cupid, because he was the most handsome guy in the area. All the girls loved him and everything else. So there's a lot of stories going about, all the stuff is it's so familiar because the same thing with the Masonic stuff. It's all to do with Nimrod and everything else. So you see a lot of correlation from Babylon. All these secret societies, all these false religions, Eastern religions, all associate from Babylon. So already I'm starting to see a lot of correlations and a lot of similarities to other cults and other secret societies.
Right. And what's so interesting too is on that website, it talks about how there is a lodge record in 1748, and it's for lodge number 9. So we know that before 1748 that lodges had existed. And so what's interesting is that Patriotic Order of Oddfellows that I had mentioned, and there's actually members now that work through Grand Lodge. They have access to all of this material, and they've actually published this on in a book and have it for sale on Amazon. And so since it's a different order of the Oddfellows before and independent of the independent order, they've gone ahead and published this ritual in its entirety. And so this is one of the really big things, like we were talking about, the source of the stream you're drinking from. The 1797 ritual, without, just for the sake of brevity, without going into it, this ritual had oaths where you are pledging the death of your eternal soul if you break them. There's cutting off of limbs, just a lot of gruesome stuff that kind of mirrors the Freemasonic oaths that are not present in Oddfellows oaths, right? So like, there is no gruesome oath in Odd Fellowship or any like of these consequences, and you're pledging your sacred honor, but it's not how these things were. And I mean, there's serious tones of Kabbalism. There is parts where, the Noble Grand, and this is with all versions of Odd Fellowship, but the layout of the lodge is set in a planetary alignment to where the Noble Grand is always in the east. And so like they would have these emblems of the sun and the moon and stars and different things, and the Noble Grand would hold up the emblem of the sun, and as they would open the lodge, they would say the sun has risen in the east, and he is like the one that disseminates the wisdom from the sun through him to the rest of the lodge. And so there was all of these just really esoteric, really occult things that they were weaving in. They would utilize wands. There were certain planetary steps within their initiation. They would form the six-pointed star on the floor. Like there was floor work that was going on. David and John had done a show recently where they talked to I believe he was a rabbi, but he's talking about like within Kabbalism, like thinking and speaking and like this alchemical process kind of looking and reading something, but thinking something and saying something. And so like these are forms of white magic that these early Odd Fellows were doing. And they were including the name of Jesus into some of these, and it's just, it was really interesting to see and baffling to see how just so much more mysterious and esoteric these initiatory rites were than anything I had experienced in the order. So this was what really lit the fire to really search and see like, why in the world are these guys, talking about not speaking the ineffable name and holding up letters to spell Jehovah in specific ways, like so many things that are tied to these other ancient Egyptian rites. And really that we're going to see that's where a lot of this pulls. And we know that Egypt is tied in with Babylon, like we were talking about, but man, this stuff is just straight from these rites of ancient Egypt. And so, so in that ritual, there's just abominations that really a believer can see, and it is obvious. Like this is not something that you would want to be a part of. I mean, they would have oblation offers. They were really doing it all. They had altars. It was very, very esoteric, very ritualistic. And so this is something that they're putting out there to people to read and to see that this was something that this order was doing. And so, that was in 1797. And there was several other lodges in that patriotic order, but ultimately it is different than the other later Oddfellow, branches, you could say. But on that website too, there's an area and it says, "Ask me, I may know." And if you click that part, there are different links over here where they have provided some really great material on their history. And they have linked the PDFs for free. And so we're going to just check some of these out throughout the work. So if I'm citing some of these, this is the sources. This is given from the Oddfellows themselves. So I'd like to touch on some of that information. But really, I want to just focus on this this early beginning, right? So this admittance to kind of pulling, in other words, they say like the nucleus of the Bucks when they disbanded, that they joined into the Odd Fellowship. They have a lot of the same symbols. They, the 3 links, the antler horns, they utilized similar names for their noble grand and different things like that. So right here, I'd like to show, let's see here. This is from the book, let's see here, Conductor and Guide. So on their website, they call this the golden standard of Odd Fellowship. And this is kind of just talking about what these initiations, what's going on with this. So this one's, I think it's on yours, Dan. It's labeled as initiation copied.
Oops.
And I can start reading it in
so it's the Conductor and Guide. I clicked on that, the manual of Odd Fellow.
Yes, sir.
Yep, I got that up.
So right here, this is the opening, and it's talking of initiation. And it says, every Odd Fellow should keep clearly impressed on his mind and heart the lessons taught at initiation. They are a guide to understand properly all that follows after, an epitomized summary of the great principles and object of the order. They contain germs which, after instruction and his own practice, should develop and mature into blossoming and fruitfulness. In one word, what regeneration by the word of truth is in religion, initiation is in Odd Fellowship. In this, as in many other particulars, our institution has instinctively, as it were, copied after nearly all secret associations of a religious and moral character. So right there, they're showing this source. In Egypt, the most ancient among the ancient nations, an institution of this kind existed, and that mode of initiation was well calculated to make a serious and abiding impression on the mind of the recipient. It goes on to say, let's see.
What page is that?
101.
Oh, page 101.
Sorry, brother.
Oh, that's fine.
Basically, he goes on to say, besides the Egyptian mysteries, as they are so called by historians, we find scattered throughout all of Europe and a large portion of Asia associations founded on similar principles, characterized by similar ceremonies and having similar objects in view. Of most of these, our information is scanty and imperfect, but enough is known to prove the identity of their origin and object. These were all sometimes spoken of as the mysteries of the Kabiri, a name which itself is a mystery and which no learning or research has yet been able to satisfactorily to explain. Among all the mysteries of the ancients, those celebrated at the city of Ulysses, and hence called the Eleusinian mysteries, are best known. These were copied from the Egyptian and bore a great general correspondence to all similar institutions. And hence an account of one is in the main an account of all of the others. Not all agreed in the particular detail of their practices or objects, but in their outline they agreed in holding similar principles for similar purposes. Now a careful comparison of all the ancient rites as they existed anterior to the gospel leads to the following conclusion. It was a leading characteristic of all the ancient rites that they began in sorrow and gloom, but ended in light and joy. They were all calculated to remind men of their weakness, their ignorance, their helplessness, and their sinfulness of character, of the shortness and uncertainty of life, and of the ills which flesh is heir to, of the punishment of guilt, the reward of virtue, and the rising of the just to life eternal and immortal. So right here, they're basically coming out and they're saying that right here, that they have copied, it says copied after nearly all secret associations of a religious and moral character. And then referencing these Egyptian mysteries, these Eleusinian mysteries, which were of the underworld, these are all funerary initiations. They're saying that it's from darkness to light. We can see that in all of these initiations, especially when we look into the occult of what was going on in the pyramids, what was going on in these Neoplatonic, with Plato, with Pythagoras, all of these adepts of the occult, that they were going through these rituals and they were very similar to this. And here we see that they are saying, this is what it is kind of pulling from.
It's pretty interesting.
Let's see here. And then let's see here. I apologize, man.
Oh, no worries.
And then here on Odd Fellowship and its history, I sent you a link, and it is it's titled Wisdom of Moses. And basically, here we see, it says, in Egypt's Book of the Dead, written 2,000 years before Abraham was born, according to a late chronology, in the recent translation, occurs a passage, interestingly in this connection because of its correspondence with Odd Fellowship's Great Commission. He hath given bread to the hungry, water to the thirsty, clothes to the naked. He hath given a boat to the shipwrecked, and hath made due offerings to the gods, and paid the due rites to the departed. This was possibly a portion of the ritualistic lesson by which Moses was initiated into the royal family, and when presented before the golden throne in that supreme moment of earthly exaltation, was also enjoined to mind thee the day when thou too shalt start for that dead land. So they're trying to form this connection between what we were just talking about, the rituals of the Book of the Dead, and saying that they have a correspondence of the Great Commission, and then they're quoting these funerary rites. I mean, that is, let's see, I don't know if you can get it on the screen there. It's labeled, it's under Odd Fellowship and its history, but it's the photo I sent you is a screenshot. If you can't find it,
what's the screenshot look like?
It's just text.
Oh, part second. It says.
It just says Wisdom of Moses, and basically.
Okay.
I apologize, man.
Oh, no worries. Wisdom of Moses. Yeah, I don't think I see it. There's a lot of good information on the slides, though.
Oh, no, you're good, man. And well, I guess while you try to find that, the next one is going to be called, is just labeled as Moses as well. Because I want to really touch that this is what they believe. They believe that Moses was initiated into these rites when he was in Egypt. They believe, and at least these founders who are writing what the Oddfellows are calling, the gold standard, they're saying that this is something that Moses was also aware of, which is just not great. So let's see here.
Yeah, and if you notice too, like Freemasonry, they'll associate Hiram Biff and King Solomon a lot with their doctrine. So it's like kind of interesting how all these secret societies always use a biblical character to associate them with.
Oh, absolutely. And especially with like Rosicrucian and a lot of these different things, there is a very interesting twist that they put on a lot of these biblical stories, and they try to give them esoteric meaning and try to make it about, things that are not what the scripture talks about. So basically, I just wanted to touch on some of those of their own words, and I have some more slides, but I don't want.
Do you have screen share on your thing? If you want to screen share, it'll probably make it easier for you.
I don't know if it'll let me. It's okay. We can just, if you just want to look through the other ones.
All right.
But here on another page of the link that they provided, and I'm sorry, it's so scattered. But it says, from these orders, Moses, who was learned in all the wisdom
what
of
page?
Egypt.
I'm sorry.
It says secrecy. It's the one you have up, I think, or the first of the page says secrecy. On the screenshot. It's one of the photos.
Let me see. Yeah, we got a lot of information, folks. So it's like
yeah, I apologize, and I can just read from it, and we can post the links afterwards if the just so we don't
cool.
Time on it. But it says, from these orders, the feast called Seralia of the Eleusinian order in honor to Ceres, and the Dionysia or Feast of Bacchus, together with the order of the Pontices of Numa, king of Rome, were propagated from Egypt all over the world. From these orders, Moses, who was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, probably derived much of that wisdom which made him the greatest lawgiver in the world. And it goes on to talking about just other secret societies that have utilized this information. And so here again, we're seeing this correlation of the source in Egypt and the dissemination of these principles, and that is kind of the source for their principles as well. So basically, if we go back to the history, what we've kind of covered now is we've seen these authors understand this. These authors are okay with this source, and this is something that they are not embarrassed to put. But this isn't what's being taught to the initiate of the lodge. This is something you have to go search for and look for if you're interested in it. And it's not just going to be, things that are on Wikipedia or different things like that. And so let's see here.
Wikipedia, they got basically basic information on it. And who Thomas Wildey, who the founder here, founded the order here in America. He's
sure.
One of the
so that's where we can go next. Is I really wanted to look and see what type of guide this was. If this order existed already, maybe this guy's version, the independent order, wouldn't pull from these mysteries. So when we look at Thomas Wildey, and I sent some screenshots as well from his biography that they posted, and you don't have to post them. I can just read them, so we don't have to waste time. But when it talks about what type of man Thomas Wildey was, it says in his biography, his worship of mystery made him a fit priest to provide at the decorated altars. No boy was more bewildered and delighted with fancy story than this man, who was natural as a boy in his love for the marvelous. To him, the crowns and mitres of the officers were real, and the gavel and title of noble grand and grand master gave full assurance of the splendid rank and supreme authority. The legends of the ceremonies were to him veritable history, and thus a kind of supernatural importance was attached to the doctrines and the duties they enjoined. He came to believe them with the simplicity of a child, but with the will of a giant. And here we may find the secret of that devotion which made him great. So this is the founder of American Odd Fellowship. And so whenever you look at this man, was he aware of this stuff? Did he celebrate the mysteries? Did he include these symbols for a reason? And I think that we'll find that he absolutely did. Thomas Wildey was actually, he became an Odd Fellow in 1804. But the Manchester Unity was not formed until 1809. So it says that he was more than likely initiated in what they would call the old manner of things. So even with the degree work done in 1809, this isn't even what he was initiated under. So he had established other lodges in England before coming to the United States. And so interestingly enough, the first lodge that he started was in London, England, and it was called the Morning Star Lodge, number 38. So I wonder if this man was a student of the occult, if the first lodge he would start and name would be the Morning Star Lodge. So not only that, Thomas Wildey was also a member of the Druidic Order of New York. So he was a Druid as well as an Odd Fellow. So really, I mean, we can kind of see already that it's not looking good. It really does seem that he seeks these mysteries. He understands the history. And I sent you a picture of his chair. It says Wildey's chair. And it's literally just a picture of his chair that they have in a photo.
Oh, yeah, yep.
And on the bottom of it you'll see a pyramid, and then in front of it is an alligator with a crown.
Yep.
And so when you look at these ancient, what I had said before, that the noble grand sat in the east, his epithet was the sun. The sun has risen in the east in these old rituals. Well, this was, Thomas Wildey. He sat as a noble grand for a long time, and I've come to realize this depiction right here is of Sobek, the Egyptian god, Sobek Re. And interestingly, he was associated with protecting pharaohs from black magic, but he was also associated with Ra in a sense. And in different funerary texts, it says, labels him as he who rises in the east. So I found that as a little bit of a kind of little Easter egg type thing, just to show that just because somebody does not appear or seem to understand these things, there's just too many things lining up that he was a purveyor and a seeker of mystery. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and tell them by the symbolism, it's like blatant. It really is.
Well, and that's the other thing too, man, is you'll start to see there's I sent you a photo. It's of the Tasmanian Primitive Lodge, and around the certification is a snake, like the eternal serpent, just wrapped around the certification. And we'll see, in a lot of these, actually, if you could go, Dan, to the image. Let's see here. It's just a flag, and it has it's a 4-colored, but it's like a degree chart. It's red and pink, white and blue.
Oh yeah.
But basically, well, so we've covered the fact that these initiatory ideas were pulled from Egypt, and there's a whole group of texts in the Book of the Dead, in a lot of the pyramid texts that talk about the initiation that Plato went through, or the initiation that Pythagoras did. And it's stated that no initiate could enter into the mysteries and basically receive this information from what they called the Hierophant. But he was the guy who disseminated this knowledge to the initiate. And it says that the initiation took place in a subterranean hall of the Great Pyramid in Egypt. Let's see. With the ascent after 3 days in the Great Hall, the initiate was received by the Hierophant of the pyramid, and the Hierophant was seen only by those who had passed 3 days in 3 degrees in the 3 dimensions, given verbally the highest esoteric teachings, each accompanied with its appropriate symbol. And so this is even something that we see in the 3 degrees, in the initiatory rites. With Masonry, that lion, the lion-faced Hierophant, I wonder why they use the strong grip of the lion paw to raise the initiate, after these things of 3 degrees. In these initiations too, a lot of times what would appear before the initiate would be the apparition of a scythe, and it would swipe in front of them 7 times. And so there was all of these kind of, symbols. There would be a sarcophagus in front of them. There would be, binding, different things like that before the initiate was raised. And so if you can look at that symbol right there, that first white square, that's what we're talking about. We see that symbol of death, the skull and crossbones. We see the scythe. And over here on the bottom right of it, you'll see the hourglass, and you'll see these different things that are associated with Saturn and the scythe, and the one that the initiate was met by. It talks about a specter that looked like a skull, pretty much like the Reaper. And so I provided some other images for you on there. But there's just throughout all of the old orders, you'll see this, there's an apron that I sent you, and it has this imagery of Saturn, where he's holding his scythe, and it's all throughout older imagery where, like right there, that's for the Grand United Order. He's up on the highest pedestal. This is the third degree where the Hierophant would meet him in the 1797 when this is, they would make it to an area and meet the ancient Grand Master. So like just all of these little things that are just popping up. And we're just talking about the initiatory degree, the initiation into this order. And this is something like what I was saying is that like Thomas Wildey being a member of the Druids, being this member, he was aware of this stuff and he celebrated it. Did you have any questions about that, Dan? I'm sorry if that's kind of
actually one symbol like I don't want to go off the subject, but just one symbol here. Let me get to it. It's just so you can see the Kabbalah right through it. It's nuts. This one says El Ra, and this is the Kabbalah star with the sun and moon, and it has Nimrod and Isis at the top, and then you got the checkerboard floor, and you can see the duality of them showing basically their version of God. It's a male and female to androgynous God. You can see the Kabbalah just written all over this stuff, and back to the esoteric Egyptian stuff, and glorifying Nimrod and Isis.
Well, and the separation of the soul is like right here, This is one of the symbols where, in the funerary rites of Anubis, you would go through and it would weigh your heart on like what you have. And that picture right there is not from Odd Fellowship. I included that for later on because... Oh,
okay. I'm sorry.
No. But it's a great thing that you bring it up because that symbol of the six-pointed star, that is the symbol of the regalia of the higher degrees of Odd Fellowship. That is from the grand... they're called the encampment degrees, but they're the higher echelon of the degrees, and that is the regalia that you wear, that six-pointed star. And this order, as we found, is much older than the nation state of Israel. And these people will constantly say like, symbols are the language spoken around the world. And so in all of these orders, these symbols mean the same thing. And so in symbology and books from Odd Fellowship, it talks about the and this is no secret work or anything like this. This is public writings from the 1900s and late 1800s. But it talks about the six-pointed star representing the androgynous aspect of the beauty, right? Yep. And so this is the ultimate, like this is the culmination of your initiation in Egypt. Is you are trying to experience this, the separation and the reuniting, but as your soul leaves into that next phase through this initiation. And so in the old rites, it was a ceremony where they would raise you. It's almost this rebirth into this. And so I posted this picture because there are some themes here that if an Odd Fellow is watching this, that you'll recognize some of this stuff. And, not to point out anything that is of secret work, but to the initiate, things will stand out and you'll see this source. And this is not of God.
Absolutely. And to back you up, man, when you mention Israel and all that. So me and John Pounders, we did actually 2 whole shows on that one star. It's crazy. So it was a Rothschild who put that star on the flag. And then when Israel was founded as a state, again, 1947, I believe it was, real Jews were really ticked off because they wanted the menorah on the flag, not that star. And people say, it's a star of David. So we already proved that David never had a star. Amos chapter 5 talks about this as a star of your god Raphaim and Moloch. You know what I mean? And it also represents, if you can see the male deity, right? That's Nimrod and his Semiramis. So the triangle pointing up is a male, and the triangle pointing down is a universal symbols for male and female. And the 2 triangles meet together, interwoven, because everything in the occult is sexual. It's a male mounting a female. Same thing with the Masonic square and compass. It's just in the inwards of the Kabbalah star. So that represents ultimately an androgynous god that's male and female. And it's the sun and moon. And also, they believe that he's both evil and good at the same time. They have that yin yang symbol that symbolize equality, duality, whatever. Like we gotta keep the forces in the universe equal, which is not true because good is more powerful than evil, all that stuff. So this goes back to Eastern esoteric teachings, and you can see it just written all over this. I mean, and then you get the checkerboard floor, what the Masons use too, which represents equality as well, duality, as above, so below. Is so many, you could just pull this right apart. This is pure Kabbalah and everything else. And so, if anybody understands these symbols and all that, you'll know where they come from. And in the occult, there's an exoteric version of symbols and esoteric. So basically, even Freemasonry, mainly P. Hall even talked about in his book, The Lost Keys of Freemasonry, explain that the Mason is intentionally lied to along his path about symbols. So they'll give you 1,000 meanings of a symbol, but ultimately there's only 1, 2, maybe 3 real meanings of that symbol. So as you're going up the path there, you're giving false meanings, like the OCNI. They tell you it's the eye of God, the eye of the Grand Architect and all that. Later on you learn it's eye of Horus and eye of Lucifer, you know what I mean? And so you end up learning the truth later on, whatever the case, but there's, so a lot of people misled what the symbols mean, and then when you get to where they think you should be, you learn the real meanings of these symbols, and they are not of God. Even the exoteric versions, they're still not of God. And it goes to the second commandment when it talks about images and just statues. It's not just related to statues, images and everything else. This is why symbolism is strictly forbidden by the Bible, because of this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? They'll associate the stuff with all kind of, Moses, this one, Hiram Abiff, or not that he was a good character anyway, or King Solomon or anything like that, right? So they'll associate biblical people with these symbols and with these crafts and all that, when in fact that none of these people had anything to do with that. Now, yes, King Solomon, he became corrupt in his latter years and everything else, but regardless, they'll associate these things to try to make it look legit, but it goes back to Babylon, Nimrod, and that's why we talk about Nimrod, which is Osiris, or they call him Gilgamesh, or whatever the case. Semiramis, also known as Isis, and Juno, and you can go down the list of the names. But yeah, it's ultimately all for that stuff, and it's this duality, androgynous type God. That's basically Kabbalah. We'll just put it that way. The religion of it is Kabbalah. It's filthy, spiritual filth.
Oh yeah, man. And going back to these initiations, like we've said, this is Manly P. Hall calls these the second death. Like Manly P. Hall in his work really goes into detail of these initiations in the pyramids, and where the Oddfellow authors have said that most initiations have come from, and there are specific reasons for things that are done. And the Neoplatonics talked about kind of breaking down the psyche of what is actually happening, even just with little things when you're waiting outside of a closed door, waiting to be granted entry, even just into the lodge hall, whatever you're joining. But that basically even that part, let's see. I apologize. Is just the waiting of the soul, to enter into this next portion. It talks about in Manly P. Hall's work in the Book of the Dead type stuff. It mentions leaving your body and going past the 7 stars and different things like that. Well, the moon and the 7 stars are symbols of Odd Fellowship. The lodge that was established in America was at the 7 Stars Tavern. Every little piece of this. And I get so fragmented sometimes when talking about it, because it's just a plethora when you start to really see it and you really start to look for this stuff, because man, the sources, it's all from the same spot. And it really is. And it is so dangerous. And I wanted to kind of too, with the, think about how I want to progress here. with these things, this isn't even just from Egypt. They're pulling from like cannibalistic rites in these old rituals. In the 1700s, there was a portion where they're pulling fire from like the hearth fire and disseminating it out to the other people involved in the ritual. This is like the fire drill ritual of the Aztecs, like pulling fire that they would make in the chest cavity of the sacrifice. Like, and you would never know, like, oh, I'm just lighting my candle with this one that's already lit. Like all of this stuff is really subtle unless you look for it in those senses of the ancient, but it's so much different now. And if you're cool with it, I can kind of move forward with the history. But basically, whenever
actually, before you do, hang on 1 second.
Yeah.
I just want to make an announcement, everybody. So, as you all know, we do our donations here in the show and everything else. What we do is like we try to at least once a month help people that need help along, supporting this operation. So, as you all know, Sister Valerie, that's usually in the chat room, she's our moderator. Her and her family are going through some bad things right now financially. And what we're doing today is anybody who donates today, 50% of the proceeds are going to go to her and her family. She's got 3 kids, and and she's a single mother and everything else. So she's having some issues with the landlord. She just moved in this house, and now the landlord's giving issues. So she needs help financially. So we got the chat room, and we got a PayPal, Venmo, and a CashApp, and that link we put in the chat room there. So guys, if you donate today, 50% of the proceeds are going to go to her. That's Sister Valerie Angelino. She's usually in the chat room there. So we like to help people out at least once a month, and wish we could help people more. You know what I mean? So she's going through some financial crisis. So so if you donate to the show today, guys, it helps with this broadcast, helps with the ministry, and also helps with Sister Valerie with her family. So the links are in the chat room. And if you're watching on FOJCRadio on Thursday, in the description, you'll see the links. Because I don't know if they'll be in the chat room or not on Thursday. But in the description of the video, if you X out of the chat, you'll see all of them. You'll go 4 different ways you could donate. So whatever suits you better. And the Ko-Fi site we put up, the Ko-Fi, basically, you don't have to sign up for nothing. You go to the website, you donate what you want, use whatever card you want. It's easy. Bang, bang, bang. And we've been using that for a few years now. And you don't have to sign up for nothing. But if you do go to PayPal or Venmo or CashApp, we got those as well. So any donations today, 50% of the proceeds are going to go to Valerie for her family and everything else. So sorry to interrupt you, brother. I just wanted to get that out. So and most of all, guys, better than donations, we call them blessings, So better than that is praying for us. So we ask you to donate your prayers, number one. And if you got some money you want to donate to this operation, it pays for the rent here. And we're very transparent of where the money goes. It pays for equipment, streaming service, the rent for the building, all that other stuff. So we appreciate your help and your blessings and everything else. Thank you so much. And so again, the links are in the chat room and also in the description. So go ahead, brother.
Oh yeah, no. Basically, what we've talked about, like with this, we could just, I could talk for hours about the little different things throughout these initiations that are seen in this. But as we saw in those symbols, just on the degree chart, we do see that same theme, just like the author said, that it pulls from Egypt. All the initiations are pretty much the same with the darkness to light, all of that. And in the Oddfellows textbook, I just want to read a quote real quick. It says, "If we elevate the character of men and send them forth to the world better fitted to discharge their various duties, what matters to the world the means we employ to do it? What profit would it be to the unlawful priors into our mysteries to know whether we rebuild the Temple of Solomon or practice the incantations of the witches of Macbeth in our ceremonies?" So I think that is just mind-boggling to me that they're basically saying, like, why does it matter how we disseminate our and distribute our teachings if it's making men better? That's kind of just another quote kind of going on this history of the order. But back to the history. So in England, this was kind of running strong, but Thomas Wildey, he wasn't actually the first Oddfellow to make a lodge in the United States. There was one in New York City in 1806. It was called the Shakespeare Lodge Number 1, and so it wasn't very many people. It kind of didn't work out, and so that's kind of like what we see in the early American history of Odd Fellowship is that people tried, but it didn't stick. And so let's see, in 1819 is when Thomas Wildey came to America, and so they were still under a charter from Manchester Unity, and so he had gone along with that and was trying to bring that to the United States.
I guess it says it was unpopular because the War of 1812 when England tried to take the United States, whatever the case, and so it was unpopular for a while because him being associated with Britain and everything else.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you see too, a lot of the stuff that goes on with the drama in England was because of different loyalties to the crown. So that's like why the Patriotic Order, they put that in their titles so it didn't seem like they were doing anything shady, and it wasn't a question of who their loyalty lied to, or where their loyalty lied, because they would put up like unlawful oath acts and different stuff in Europe that would kind of trump these and try to kind of squash them out. But yeah, so it was a really small beginning whenever they did come to the United States, because Wildey basically, met a guy, and it turned out he found out that he had also been initiated whenever he was over in England as well. So it said that whenever the second lodge had been formed in, the one in Baltimore that Wildey did, that the other ones in New York were unaware of their existence. So there wasn't a lot of communication. These guys, had been initiated already in England and were coming here and trying to bring that to America. But what's interesting is it wasn't until later on that Wildey would actually split from the Manchester Unity in 1842 or 1843-ish. He would actually ask for a dispensation to be the independent order of Oddfellows. So it would be independent from the Manchester Unity. And so that is the order that basically I would have been a part of, would be cut to the American version, independent from England. And there was a lot of stuff that was going on. There was a guy that had petitioned to the Manchester Unity to start or to be a part of a lodge, and he was a black gentleman, and he was denied. So he had to join what they had called the Grand United Order of Oddfellows. So there's a lot of different splits and branches, and so that's why the history is tough, is because of the different, there's just a lot of splitting going on, and these weren't working as appendant bodies where they were working together. They were pretty much kind of like each separate. Yeah. And so that's what's so tough too, is because now their lodges are going to have different rituals. They're going to have different degrees. They may have more degrees than the other stuff. A lot of the old English stuff didn't really have a whole lot of degree work or ritualism. And so like, aside from the kind of esoteric and fraternal aspect of it, like these initially, like when it talks about the trade guilds and stuff, this was a form of kind of like mutual aid societies. I mean, that was really the general purpose. A lot of them didn't even have ritual work, and it was just to take care of each other, to provide for members who were in need, members who were down on their luck or needed to come into the lodge and bring their families. So they would do a lot of good for the community, and especially now moving in through, like you said, the War of 1812, then you move even forward to like the Civil War and stuff.
They had a plague going on too at the time. Some like I don't know if it was a bubonic plague, whatever it is, a yellow fever epidemic.
And a lot of these, Oddfellows, they showed up and they showed out, and they really did do amazing charitable work. You know what I'm saying? Like, not all of, like you said, not all of these, even the original guys, they're showing up in a country where they aren't really wanted or liked, and so they're trying to kind of link up and find brothers who are, in like-minded and who they can kind of join themselves with. And so, so the order just grew like crazy, and the work would change. Like like I said, they are a progressive order. And so like they would continually upgrade the rituals. They would continually, take different things. And there was points in time in history where like a member would go from one area to the other and would see that like, oh, their ritual works a little bit differently. So that's what it was also was different about the independent order, was like having a sovereign grand lodge and all of these like lodges working separately, but under the same constitution, under the same rules. Everybody was kind of locked in. It just took off. And at one point, Odd Fellowship was bigger than Masonry. And one in three American men were a member of a fraternal order of some kind, which is just crazy, man. I mean, in some of these books, you look at the numbers, dude, and it's like crazy. And then what you also look at, like the amount of money that these guys were giving to people or just dealing with. And so like, I do understand that sense of the secrecy, because if you're an initiated member, you could come from another state, another country, and if you give them the grip and the password and the secrets, then you have access to these funds. You have access to the lodge. You have access to all the stuff that your brothers have access to. And so if you've got people coming in and they unlawfully know these secrets, then it's an easy way to get screwed over. And so I do see some necessity for like, having a way to kind of prove yourself, but it's completely unnecessary to involve these ancient Egyptian rites and initiatory rites and stuff that's just pulled from things, admittedly, like the Book of the Dead or the Eleusinian mysteries, stuff like that. And so,
especially the Druid stuff. I mean, like, because they're, it's off the Celtic religion, and the Druids are believed to be a high priest that communicate between man and the gods. You know what I mean? And so that's divination right there. That's necromancy and everything else, and that's a lot of stuff that's prohibited in Deuteronomy 18.
Absolutely, and I mean, Wildy was a Druid, so I'm sure he was aware. I mean, and so that's kind of one of the things I want to talk about too, man. Is like, to those who are initiated, now these lodges are not just bustling and booming. There's not tons of members in every single one of them. You know what I mean? And a lot of these lodges aren't doing degree work a lot. They're not pushing members, getting a ton of new members. So they have no reasons to do initiations. They have no reasons to do degrees. So some of these members could have been initiated and never even seen or been a part of like, putting on these degrees for other people. There's a lot of guys that'll join and they'll just come for social nights. You know what I mean? So they don't see any of these mysteries. They don't see any of this stuff to even start to kind of assess what they're involved in. And so, with these oaths and stuff like that, you are linking yourself spiritually. And, if you look at what is in the initiatory, those symbols, you're chaining yourself literally and spiritually to the people that you got initiated with. And other people, I mean, it says that you have joined yourself to a worldwide fraternity. And this is people who are dead and alive. So like, we've got guys like Albert Pike who are members. We've got, guys who are, whenever I was initiated into the higher degrees, I got initiated with a member of the OTO, Crowley and stuff. And the whole time he was going, wow, this is so esoteric. This is so esoteric, man. This is crazy. And then I would talk to another guy. I didn't realize he was a member of the Rosicrucians, and he works for Sovereign Grand Lodge. And he would just super nice guy, super cool. And I had no idea, and these people are who others look to and ask questions. But as Christians, we don't want to join ourselves through an oath to these other people, that are practicing what the Bible calls abominations, those, stuff like that. What's being done in Mason. I was initiated with a Shriner, and, they have to say that there's no God but Allah. And there's just things that you're linking yourself to really with not even realizing or understanding the weight of what that
one right here, man. If you look at this, right? So the symbol, because there was Albert Pike who created the 33rd degree of Freemasonry, right? So the symbol he used for the 33rd was an Egyptian deity called Mammon Ra, the god of war and money. So now if you look at the deity, it's a double-headed eagle facing opposite directions. No, the equality duality thing, right? But if you read what the Bible says, tell me this is not prophetic. Matthew 6:24. No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. Oh, look at that. You cannot serve God and mammon. You can't make this stuff up. And that's exactly what that is. That's mammon. So and that's what you do. You swear you leave, all these oaths to this deity, which is a Kabbalistic, going back to the ancient Egyptians and all that. That's what Freemasonry is. So the Bible clearly says that you can't serve these two masters. You got to serve God or Mammon, which is
absolutely.
And it's just so prophetic how the words of Jesus come into play to this day. And he also talks about real quick here, if you think about oaths and all that stuff, right? Jesus himself says, right, in Matthew 5:34 through 37, he says, "But I say to you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it's God's throne." When people say, "I swear to God," and all that, he says, "Don't do that." Nor by earth or his footstool, not by earth, for it is his footstool. Neither by the Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Neither by you shall swear by your head, because you cannot make one hair black. That's for you people who take oaths on your lives. Yeah, don't swear on your lives. And so he says, but let your communication be yea, yea, which is yes, yes, or no, no. For whatever, which is nay, nay. For whatever is more comes from the devil. And this goes to so many things, like when I go to court, which thank God I haven't been in court in years. So when they put the Bible up, it's like, no, that's contradictory to that Bible. My yes will be yes, my no will be no, because it's forbidden me. I bring this verse up. So it's forbidden for me to swear an oath of any sort, and even people, the oath keepers too. I mean, like we get into all that, the solemn oaths. That God says don't swear no oaths at all, none. Even if it's good or a God or anything, don't do it. He says plain and simple. But for people in secret societies, even if it's not on your life, swearing an oath in general is Jesus. It's contrary to what Jesus just told us to do in Matthew, and that's why I always bring up Matthew. If you notice about Matthew, right? The book of Matthew is like a nuclear bomb to all secret societies, every one of them, every religion just about, these false religions out there, because they do things in contrary to what the book of Matthew teaches. That's how powerful Matthew is, man. And it's amazing that, when you read the book of Matthew, just go through it and learn the context, you'll be able to pick these things out, like the Catholic stuff and everything. You could go down the list of it, but it is amazing how the book of Matthew just derails all these so-called religions and cults and secret societies. It's amazing.
It is, man. And it like God's word keeps us out of trouble. Mm-hmm. And the history of the order is very interesting, and I don't want to waste all of our time, because a huge portion of what I want to talk about tonight too is this spiritual aspect. Like I wanted to kind of talk about some of these things so that some of the members can really see like that this really was derived from a Egyptian and Eleusinian source. But like what is relevant today in this American and really what the worldwide Odd Fellowship is so much more subtle. You can look at these old rituals and just be like, man, that was kind of blatantly obvious, But when you go to this initiation, you have no idea what you're in for, and you're in. You go in, and the door shuts, and it's kind of one of those things where it would be kind of hard to be like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. Once you get to that point and you're in there with the guys that you love, that you respect, that have taken you in, you've been eating meals with them, it really doesn't seem as diabolical because it's not supposed to look that way anymore. And so, like you're saying, swear not any of these oaths. Well, there's members of the KKK. There's members of all sorts. Like I said, the OTO, just abominable associations. And now these are your brothers. Now these guys, if something were to happen, like, you have to put them above other people. Even if you are talking about, if you're a Christian and it's between a Christian brother or an Oddfellow brother, but he is a Satanist, you have to put him at, like, you would preferential treatment, and we're not supposed to give preferential treatment biblically. And so a lot of people that join these, like, it is very, very subtle. It's very doesn't look, I know I talk to guys that have been initiated by watching a video on a TV. A lot of these guys don't even have enough people to do the initiation or have any of the costumes or the regalia or anything like that. So it really is just a dude's club to a lot of people. And it really, if you only have so many people in the lodge and all of them and you're not really doing any of this stuff, you're like, well, these are all good guys. What's the harm in this? We're just doing good in the community. We're just helping people out. There's some biblical lessons that we learn every once in a while, but really they're just going through the good of the order, kind of going through the motions, seeing who they can help, what they talked about, and just like individual lodge business. And so the initiate isn't going to think like the spiritual connotation of yoking yourself with these people and the spiritual connotation of these buildings. So the big thing, and I know David and John talked about this recently in a show they did, but one thing is that these lodges make you available to, they allow you to utilize the lodge, right? But so can your other brothers. So if you are in a membership and it's all good guys, and then you've got one really bad apple, and he decides, hey, I need to use the lodge for this, and this, he has every right to. And so how do you know that he's not going to go do one of these rituals from his other orders that he's a member in and desecrate this building that you're in? Whenever I got initiated into the encampment degrees, I was looking and noticing some symbolism, like hanging on stuff on the wall that wasn't from our fraternity. And I asked the high priest guy there, and he was like, yeah, well, we actually rented out the building out to this Wiccan group on this day every Wednesday of the month or whatever. And so, yeah, they are renting the lodge on those days. So same with Freemasonry, a lot of these buildings have been defiled and you weren't there. You had nothing to do with it. It could have been something that happened 50 years ago. You know what I mean? But there's so many doorways in a lot of these buildings that have been opened that you have no idea about. And that is just an open door consistently. There's others that talk about, that some of these buildings that are built, there's actually things that are placed into the foundation of the buildings to continuously have an open spiritual doorway that you can't close because it's in the concrete of the cement. Like there is a lot of things going on in these spiritually charged areas where Jesus is shut out whenever you enter that door. And so I hope that some of the members who are Christians but think about that, who I can guarantee you, somebody in your lodge building that does not believe in Christ, that denies him, that or that is an atheist or whatever. And it's tough because these are your brothers. But when you look at what the Oddfellows believe, it says everything when it sums it up in the funeral degree, which it is considered the last degree of odd fellowship. So I'm not going to post it on here or go into any details. But what is said in this degree is basically that as an odd fellow, now they are entering into the lodge in the sky. Basically, it's their last degree, and that it's claiming everlasting life for the members, and for this hope that you'll see them again in the afterlife because they were a good person. And that brings me to like what we were talking about with this American order. When Thomas Wildey came and they started updating the rituals and stuff, the guys that helped write the new stuff were Universalist pastors. They legitimately believed there were multiple ways to heaven. And so now these guys are writing these biblically sourced degree work, that are all just pulled from stories from the Bible, but they're never talking about Christ. They're talking about, doing things and serving God, but it's never mentioning Christ. And even the old 1700s rituals where they're doing white magic talk about Jesus, so this is something that's very interesting because it is a Christian, they consider it Judeo-Christian, but they do not talk about Christ. And when you pray, you're not praying in Jesus's name. These are things that are very serious. And so, it talks about it in, there's a verse, I wrote it down.
Yeah, they're missing the whole point of the prayer,
Well, absolutely. Jesus. And I sent you an image on there, and it's another degree chart, or it's a flag, but it has, it's like got a red border on it, and it has 3 pillars, an altar of incense.
Oh, is it black and white?
Let's see here. It's not black and white. It's colored. It's like it's a multicolored banner. It's the encampment degree chart is what the image is called. But anyway, if you can find it, that'd be great. If not, it's no big deal. But in the upper degrees of the encampment, one of the degrees is tolerance. And the symbol of this degree is the 10 Commandments, the cross, and the red cross, and the crescent moon. And basically the whole thing talks about how we all basically serve the same God, whether we're Christians, Jews, or Muslims. And so this is not true in the slightest, but this is an emblem of this order. And so now these people are wearing this 6-pointed star on their chest as they're telling you that they have tolerance. And then if you look in the order, there was not ever allowed to be anyone admitted into the order that wasn't a white man. You couldn't be an Asian, you couldn't be Indian, it says in the work, you couldn't be half-blooded, you couldn't be African American. And yet here we're talking about tolerance. And that wasn't changed until, the whites only clause was removed in 1971. That is crazy. And as you're reading and was talking about how, we're all brothers and under the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man, they don't believe that. There was arguments over that which is a reason for some of the split from Manchester Unity and going independent was because of their ideology on race and stuff like that. But the symbols are going to always be the language that tells the truth. Mm-hmm. And these symbols don't just mean something different for the Oddfellows. They mean the same thing that they mean in Freemasonry. That's why they share the symbols. So much so that they had to have a committee formed at one point to see if there was a common denominator because of similar things. And so they had members of the Oddfellows who were also Masons form a committee to find that out. But if it's of God, then why does it look so similar to all of these pagan things?
Yeah.
So the verse
One symbol, yeah, which says what's the name? Thomas Wiley.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically two pillars beside them, and you got the all-seeing eye, and identical to, and right in the middle at the bottom is a obelisk, like exactly the same symbolism. That's a pillars of Jashin and Boaz from Solomon's temple, and same thing with Masonic stuff, and it's like identical. And then again, they may have different names, different variations of it, but it's the same symbolism as Freemasonry. It's like it's uncanny. Then other one you put. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good, man. That black and white one, like,
yep.
You'll see Thomas Wildy, and then above him is Atlas holding up the world. The Greek god Atlas. This is the son of Poseidon.
Yep.
We know through Plato, like what he was into. You know what I mean? And then they've got Saturn, they've got Nimrod, they've got. I don't know if you saw that one on one of the lodge's institutions. It was the Ouroboros. This.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Eternal serpent, like a lot of these things, like in the Grand United Order of Oddfellows, the lady's holding the caduceus with the flame on it, and it's just, I mean, you could go on and on. The beehive being a symbol associated with that hive mind mentality, but of building, and really it points back to the Tower of Babel and stuff like that. But
and this one here
also
too,
with Venus, and it's all steeped in this mystery and this paganism. And in Ephesians 5:5-11 says, "For this you know, that no whoremonger, nor unclean person, nor covetous man who is an idolater hath any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and God. Let no man deceive you with vain words, for because of these things cometh the wrath of God upon the children of disobedience. Be not ye therefore partakers with them. For you were sometimes in darkness, but now are ye light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving what is acceptable unto the Lord, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them." And so this is saying that idolaters have no inheritance in the kingdom of heaven. What does it make us if we are joined in covenant with idolaters, people who, worship other gods, people who, whatever, you're spiritually joining yourself with them as brothers, but at the same time, like, we're looking at their symbology and they're including other gods, whether they're Greek, whether they're Egyptian. This is not something to be bragging about or including into this history. If you want it to be independent and you want to make it a social club, it can be that. Then don't include all of this stuff. Same with religion, man. It's not even just lodges. If the church wants to be the house of God, then take out all the paganism. Just go by the scripture. We don't need all of the stuff, that is just blatantly paganism. We don't need all of that stuff to put the profane with the holy. And so when we join these orders and we, sit and eat dinner every night before you go into these meetings and all of this stuff, like, we're really bringing upon ourselves things that we don't understand the spiritual weight of. And, a lot of like I said, I have nothing but good things to say about the guys that I was involved in. Some of the most selfless, just a lot of them God-loving dudes who just, don't sit and research this stuff like I do. Their heart hadn't been pricked to really look at the sources because this stuff doesn't come up, man. They're too busy doing good things in the community and really don't look into this stuff. And so it's almost like living in the South. I think of it as, we're sitting here saying that all roads lead to heaven, that we're agreeing in covenant with these guys that there's more than one way to get to heaven, but let's be tolerant. Let's not judge these other people's religions. You're all brothers, whether you're a Christian, Muslim, or Jew. We're all going to heaven when we die, as long as we do the right thing. And this is, stated in the funeral services. I've been a part of them. And yeah, the evergreen little spruce is like one of the last things of regalia that you wear in that degree. And like you said, tracing it back to Babylon. But it's like sitting and leaving your screen door just kind of barely open at night in the South, man. And you don't realize how many mosquitoes are getting in and are breeding. And it's just breeding in your house. And you don't notice it until you start having getting uncomfortable and start noticing the punishment of that, of, getting bit and all this stuff. Like, a lot of people don't understand that when you're joining yourself to an order that is providing you with wisdom that is steeped in this just putrid swamp of the ancient past, that you are bringing this upon yourself. You are allowing this to just have a door open in your life, to where the accuser of the brethren can't accuse you, because you are not doing what you're supposed to do according to Scripture. Because we are supposed to have no part of this, and it's not the eye of God. We know what the single eye means, what it means to the initiates, why they were in the initiation in the pyramid. That's why for the young, like Oddfellow's youth, the symbol is the pyramid with the eye, and then like the cup of covenant. The Freemason Manly P. Hall talks about how the pyramid is the house of God, the house of the dying God, never to die again, and talking about Osiris and all of these symbols that we have looked at just in two of the degree, like the initiation. Yeah, man, you're talking about this is it.
This poster right here, I guess it's Oddfellow poster. It shows like Cupid, the one you gave me.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you look at that, right? Yeah, normally this represents like Valentine's Day, Cupid. But if you take a real good look, the people who designed this knew exactly what they were doing. Because if you look at the triple links of the chain, so basically this is represent the unholy trinity. And if you look at it, right, it's a woman, a man, and a baby. And Cupid, in Greek mythology, Cupid is actually Tammuz, which is Horus. You know what I mean? So what you're looking at is you're literally looking at Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. That's
when it says why would a little tiny cherubic baby be an Oddfellow?
Yeah,
it's because Nimrod, they said, and what I tried to cover in the beginning with the bucks and the undeniable proof of the token with that buck head and the links, they say that these guys in the bucks probably formed the nucleus of the growing Odd Fellowship order. So you don't think that they had an influence, and now they're saying that Nimrod's an Odd Fellow, and it seems so dumb, it's crazy.
It's right in your face. It's crazy, man. And
it is.
Ephesians 5:11 tells us, plain and simple, have no fellowship with unfruitful works of darkness. So if you belong to the sort of guys, and again, I'm not judging you like that, probably a nice, great guy and everything else, but it says, plain and simple, have no fellowship with unfruitful works of darkness, but reprove them. That means expose them. And here's the other thing, too, you mentioned, too, about putting your brother first. So now here's a situation, right? Just say, and if you're Oddfellow or somebody belongs to secret society out there, right? Check this out. Let's check the scenario, right? So just say your fellow brother just murdered an innocent person, right? Now comes the court that he needs you to be his alibi. So are you going to sit there and break the 8th commandment to lie? That's number 9, I'm sorry. The 9th commandment to lie so you can save your brother. Now, because again, you're supposed to put your brother first, right? So now it comes to these issues like a murder, it could be anything. So you got to be a false witness for your brother? Yeah, think about that for a minute. You got to break the 9th commandment for your brother. Yeah, because your oath says you got to put your brother first. So think about that for a minute. So you got to lie and an innocent person's killed or whatever the scenario is. So you got to lie for your fellow brother. Think about that.
Man, it's and it's tough, dude, because like I said, and I'll even talk about this in the continuation of this history. As time went on, the rituals were updated. things were changed. A lot of the stuff was pulled out, especially in the 1900s. It started to be more like wanting it to be more religious, like more Judeo-Christian. So now you've got to the point where we're at, where these guys don't have these costumes. These guys aren't doing this degree work. A lot of them are just coming to a lodge, like I said, and hearing some Bible stories. This has no mysterious appearance in the way that it is now. All of these images kind of that we're pulling are old. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's why I feel where Freemasonry is so different from Odd Fellowship is you have to really search, other than the symbols that speak, on their own. You have to really search to find some of this stuff. So a lot of these gentlemen that are in this lodge, this would never come up unless you really went searching for it and started to look. Because a lot of people don't read the Book of the Dead or don't read this stuff. And it wasn't until like I started doing research into other stuff where I would be reading these initiation rites and be like, oh, that seems kind of familiar. And God would allow the Holy Spirit to prick my heart, even in my blinded state of being bound under this obligation and being so blind as I was. He allowed me to have that little bit of a prick. And the more I searched, I would just see like, oh man, that's where that comes from, down to very minute things. And like I said, and I apologize to everyone for being fragmented and not having the images and stuff, but I want to be very careful with how I just discuss this stuff, because I don't want to, like I said, talk about this in a manner like this is something that these people are doing blatantly. And a lot of this stuff is stuff you don't think about. But in all of these orders, the sad and very real truth is it's not just your lodge. It's not just your lodge of the good guys, the banker from your town, maybe your grandpa's in there with you, or just some people know every single guy in there, grew up with them their whole life, and they're preachers, doctors, like that would never, you'd be like, well, they would never be a part of this if it was bad. You know what I mean? Like even the guys that I was, that brought me in, like not bad guys at all, would never be a part of something, but like it doesn't matter to the enemy. And so the best thing that we could do is to defile ourselves and not realize it. And that's what's happening. And there is no doubt that all throughout the existence of Odd Fellowship, other members came in from other orders, like Freemasonry, like the Bucks, like what I personally witnessed of the OTO or of Rosicrucianism. And so that membership affects your spiritual outcome as well. Because like I said, when these people have access to these lodges, whether it's in different states, whether it's your lodge, whether it's whatever, you are under this this obligation and bound spiritually to your brothers. So it really is a lot more spiritually dangerous than people realize. And I understand that some people may have never thought this in a million years or cared to, and that's not even why they joined the lodge. But the fact of the matter is it's undeniable that the founders of the American order, which is really what we're talking about, they knew this stuff, and a lot of it was taken out, but it doesn't take away the source. And so, we can't go in a place where you can't talk about Jesus and feel like, oh, everything's fine. You know what I mean? I just really hope that to those who are initiated, like I said, that you would really just pray to ask God if this is something that you need to be in, and that you can see in his word that we're really not supposed to fellowship with darkness. And the first steps into your journey into light begins with darkness. And I don't think that any of us need to willfully put ourselves in a act of being bound and placed in darkness to where there is the need for a new light to be received or to be given. Because like we just read in Ephesians, we're in the light of the Lord. And His word is the light unto our path, and not these ancient, little flavor. Like, we don't need that. We don't need any of this to do good in the community. You can have a brothership or brotherhood without inculcating the mysteries into it, man. And it's important. We need to really be examining ourselves and really seeing like areas of our lives that we can be pulling back and getting rid of these things that we didn't realize were bringing curses upon us. Because these are the things that brought curses upon people since the beginning of time, man. And this is some of the wisdom of fallen angels. This is the sacred sciences of the fallen. And
I got a question for you too. So you got your browser open. If you go on the history of the OTO, the Oddfellows there. So the first picture down shows them caring for a bunch of people sick and all that. So if you notice in the picture, right, in the picture I showed before with the Cupid, so there's 3 interlocked gold rings there and 3 interlocked gold rings there. What's the meaning in the Oddfellows version of those 3 golden rings?
So those are the 3 links of Odd Fellowship, and they represent the 3 degrees, but they stand for friendship, love, and truth. And so, good stuff, right? Like, nothing that seems like it's, bad or anything like that. But like I said, man, if you scroll down, actually, let's see, are you on the American history part?
Independent Order, Sovereign Grand Lodge.
If you go to the history and then go to the American history of American Odd Fellowship, and you scroll down, it shows a monument after Thomas Wildey died as well. And even in his death is erected a phallic obelisk, and the Oddfellows lodges, they actually donated the stones to go to the building of the Washington Monument, one of the biggest obelisks.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? And so, it's wild. And the members, well, like that's where P.T. Barnum got the 3-ring circus. He was an Oddfellow.
Wow. Makes
yeah,
sense.
man, tons of presidents and vice presidents and like Franklin Roosevelt and just tons of people, man. And it's crazy. A lot of very powerful people. And, but at the same time, like I said, I totally understand. And I think that things can always be, maybe even intended to be something, and then they can be turned into something else very quickly. And I do see a lot of, like the social, mutual fund, mutual aid aspect of things, or the trade guild aspect of like guys in the same trade coming together, or for mutual relief or whatever. Like the Social Security program of the United States was kind of formed off of this understanding of what the Oddfellows created. So, they donate millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars to charities all over the world, and they really do help so many people. And so it is sad to see there be the need of these symbols, and the need for the lie that ultimately we are shutting Christ out of our entrance into eternity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
because it says the Oddfellows took on responsibilities, visiting the sick, burying their dead, educating orphans, and caring for widows as a way to support widows, orphans, and all that. And it's like sounds like the Shriners too. The Shriners burn hospitals, they help give rides to all that stuff. A lot of good philanthropy, right? And if you notice, every corporate website and all that has a philanthropy page. Same thing with these secret societies. And when I explain the same thing here, is what that does, it gives a public persona. Oh, look what we're doing. And they do good things, you know what I mean? But what that does, it hides and masquerades what goes on behind the back, you know what I mean? And Yeah, again, I mean, do they do good things? Absolutely. And there's people who do it good heart, absolutely. But again, they put these things out and give millions of dollars away to, the people at the top to masquerade what goes on in, in the inner circle, so to speak. And so that's what we need to be aware of, because they'll show these good things, a lot of prayers, like you said, right? But again, you just mentioned, and sorry to cut you off, but you mentioned you mentioned Jesus Christ, the importance of that. Where's Jesus involved in any of this? I mean, good stuff, yeah, but prayers and everything. No Jesus in the prayers, no Jesus in the philanthropy, no Jesus in anything. I mean, you probably wouldn't find his name on their website altogether.
Oh, for sure, man. It's yeah. I mean, I really don't even know what to say, because it really does make me sad, because I know so many of these guys' heart, and that it is really to help people.
Yeah.
And just to be deceived without knowing it. That's what's dangerous is when we don't realize that we are bringing curses upon ourselves, or we don't realize that we're somewhere that we don't need to be. And it's not too late, man. Like, that's the great thing about it, is that we're always, like the thief on the cross, we always have the ability to repent and to turn from our sin and to have the freedom in Christ, rather than having to go through a dark ritual to get light that never really comes. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, I would just definitely have to say, like, it's a subtle and slow burn, but like it's undeniable where Christ is not the only way to eternity, then that is a false doctrine, and that is a lie. And we can't sit there and agree with that if we don't believe it. And everything that the order believed, its founders, the pastors who wrote the degrees, they believed that. And so you're under the headship of people that believed there are multiple ways, and who have, like Wildy's chair, man, that says it all to me. Like, he has an underworld deity on his chair. You know what I'm saying? Like a member of Druidism. Like, this is it's a bummer, but that's just the way it is. And yeah.
Yeah, no, the very fact that that's how you get to the nitty gritty of orders and religions and all that. You look who the founder is. Go to see who the founder is, and I understand it was like 4 other people helped him out too. But when you look at the founder, the person, you end up learning dark stuff about them. You know what I mean? And so the very fact that he was a druid, that right alone, if you're a professional Christian right now and you belong to an order established by Thomas Wildy, you got to really backtrack yourself. You got to question yourself, because if you're going to follow orders established by a druid, man, yeah, there's a problem. There's a big problem with that, because again, the Druids were Celtics. They were precept to communicate what they thought were gods, which we know are fallen angels and unclean spirits, with mankind. So they were mediators, so to speak, between the gods, quote unquote, and the people. So these people that practice, and especially Druidism, forget it. These Celtics, they literally do mass sacrifices. The Halloween, the Samhain festival, which you got coming up, right? The 3-day festival, Samhain, and that's what they do. And they do sacrifices. They do very disgusting divinization practices and everything else. So yeah, the order might be presented to be nice, but the thing is, the founder, you think he's going to found somebody like that's going to found this order on good intentions? No, they use good intentions to masquerade who they are. And again, not everybody in there is part of the Druids, whatever the case. But I'm just saying, the founder of the American order here, he's clearly a Druid. So that right there should set a red flag in your head right now. If you're a member of this organization, you know what I mean? You should have a red flag in your head right now. Wait, our founder here was a Druid, and he was into the Kabbalah and all that. Right then and there, you should pack your bags and leave that organization right away, and renounce yourself. And when you go to prayer, guys, you need to understand this. We say this to everybody who belongs to a secret society. David Carrico teaches as well. So when you leave a lodge, right, you respectfully write them a letter, say, listen, thank you for everything, guys. I appreciate you welcoming me to your lodge, whatever the case, but I officially want resign from this. Resign from this. Turn in all your everything you have, all your garb and all that stuff. Turn it into them or destroy it. And when you pray to the Lord, right, even though you already been saved, pray to Jesus Christ that you officially, spiritually, and denounce any and all ties, associations with that organization, any oath that you may have taken and all that, because what you did is you put a splinter on yourself, on your soul, that you're binding yourself to that order. So regardless if you're saved or not, okay, there's some spiritual ramifications going to come along. You need to break those spiritual ties by really pleading the blood of Jesus over you, denouncing any and all affiliation, well, your oaths you took, all that stuff, and your little awards you won, anything like that. You need to destroy it or give it back to the lodge. And you need to completely remove yourself from that situation. That's how you get spiritually cleansed from that kind of thing. Because if you don't, this is going to happen. Because if you still have ties to that organization in any which way, the memorabilia, anything, you're inviting these unclean spirits into your life. And you know you're saved or not, but they got a dominion on you. It's a stronghold. That's what
you said. They have a right to access you. Because the founders have covenants with these, and you have no idea or part of it, but you are under their headship, and your symbols, say that. And, it's not by chance that, Saturn or Father Time or whatever, or the Ouroboros, or even like some of these magical symbols like the 6-pointed star or the past grand, symbol being a star inside a circle with, the understanding of the 5-pointed star is man perfected, right? So like you have overcome your earthly desires and you have become man perfected. So what better symbol for the past grand who has now moved, into a different chair. And so these symbols were chosen for a reason. And it's not like they're just muted spiritually because you don't understand them. These are very powerful symbols. The 6-pointed star was a favorite of Crowley, man. Like of Enochian sigil magic, a lot of this stuff. And I tried to not really go into some of these texts. Maybe another time we could really dive into like some of the actual Book of the Dead stuff, because I didn't really want to read it with it rolling into Sabbath, and I don't even think it's necessary to even just go into that stuff because it's so blatant just with the language of symbolism and what the Oddfellows would call the mystic chain. There is a spiritual binding going on, and we need to be separate.
Absolutely.
From
my
anything.
buddy, I don't know if you're here of Doc Marquise. He's dead now, but God rest his soul. Doc Marquise, former member of the Illuminati, he told me when he was practicing magic and everything else, he goes, the most powerful talisman in all of the occult is the 6-pointed star. It's what they use to raise demons and fallen angels and everything else. And he said that's like the cream of the crop in symbolism in the occult.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, it's I wonder why it's the top degrees that's where the symbolism and regalia comes. Like most of these guys that are just initiates never even join that, because with Odd Fellowship, it's kind of like how with the Shriners, it's a separate lodge. Like for the Odd Fellows, you have to be a 3rd degree member to take the encampment degrees, but most encampments are in a separate lodge building. So you're not even, it's like a whole different lodge than the other lodge you're a part of. So most of the time, Oddfellows have no idea what's going on in the encampment lodges. They have a completely different leader than the Noble Grand. They've got a Grand Patriarch, and but it's all, even with the open tent and the altar, I mean, a lot of the symbols that were from the ancients that have been removed that are irrelevant now, but that show that belief that I said of Manlicky Hall, of the house of God being the pyramid. And it is just all throughout the symbology of all the history of Odd Fellowship, and that is to this day. So, and I think it's enough to see, like, it's kind of harsh, but like, you've got Albert Pike and other guys in this order that were members of very racist groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, would you join the KKK if they said, well, we've updated our ritual and now we're progressive?
Not
Or
at
would
all.
you feel like you had still been stained from the
Mhm.
past? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it talks about in some of these books that we read from that say like, well, who doesn't have a stained, even the church has a stained past, but does that make it a bad, organization? That's the mindset is it's like not even owning up to this, saying that your rituals were from this source, but then kind of being like, well, so it's kind of wild. It really is.
Yeah, it's very wild, and it's what we need to be aware of. It's like so much deception at every front, and that's what the excuse they'll use. Oh, well, would they say the church referring to the Catholic Church? Yeah, they did. They killed millions of Protestants and Christians over the Inquisition years, whatever. But yeah, they'll use that. Oh, it's like, oh, well, then they'll bring something up on you. Oh, I'm sure you sinned, like that has anything to do with it. You know what I mean? So they'll try to make excuses or justify it and all that, but we need to stick strictly by the Bible, and none of us are perfect, but we need to try to strive for perfection in the Lord. You know what I mean? He's got the 10 Commandments for a reason, and which plays a big part in what I said, the oaths and all that, because you're lying. You're literally lying to save your brother. Whatever the case, right? That's the 9th commandment violation. 2nd commandment violation, we're using the symbolism and everything else. So there's a lot of spiritual ramifications you're dealing with just to be part of a covenant like that or a secret society.
Man.
Yeah, we should do a show on that sometime. That'd be cool. We just talked about earlier.
Oh yeah, man.
Is there anything else you want to disclose before?
I mean, there's just, like I said, there's so much that we could touch on.
Yeah.
There's so many things that we could look at with those degrees, but really, I feel like just knowing what they claim to be their history, what the authors of who wrote what they call the gold standard of odd fellowship, like what they say, and we've learned about the derivatives of these things, and whether it's just like an exact representation, we know that this is from a tainted source. And so I just want to just and actually, have you ever read the Prayer of Manassas?
I vaguely remember that.
Well, I would say, to those who are feeling that guilt or that weight, and feel, I know of specific people in my mind that I'm thinking of that they're learning of these truths and they're waking up to it, but it's a really hard thing to walk away, man. It really is tough. And especially I was really involved. I'd been a member for 8 years. I didn't want to leave. I loved those guys. I felt like we were doing something good in the community, but when God calls us, we have to listen. Mm-hmm. And Manassas, it's in the Apocrypha, but he went so far with his ritualism as to cause his own son to pass through the fire. And he comes to the Lord and he repents. And it's the Prayer of Manassas. It's beautiful. So I would say, to those people out there, maybe look up the King James version and read it, and just see an example of someone who has done so much worse than just join in a fraternal order with bad roots, but went as far as to kill his own child, and that God still offers us forgiveness. So no matter how deep you've gotten in whatever order it is, man, there is sanctification and an offering of repentance. We just have to turn from our sin, and we have to do the hard thing, and we have to stand up and step back, and hopefully, it will be a witness to others. And that's what I hope with even doing these things, man. I get really just kind of emotional, even just like doing them sometimes, because I was there, and I feel so grateful to the Father for allowing me to come out of it. And I want him to be able to use me as kind of a testimony to others who are in it to say that like it's time to come out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably, you know, what I would have to say about that.
Well, yeah, thank you, brother, and I appreciate your time and everything. And it's been a very informative program here.
Oh, absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me, dude. And
Oh, no problem.
And like I said, man, it's always a pleasure. I love you guys, and all the stuff that y'all are doing, and David, Donna, and John, and Brian.
Is there any way people could get a hold of you? Or if like like a fellow odd member that could get a hold of you if they needed to talk to you or anything?
Oh, absolutely, man. So my email is the best way, probably. It's the state Texas _symbol and then Torah, TORAH, at protonmail.com. So Texas _Torah at protonmail. And I hope that in bringing some of this stuff to life, that it doesn't appear that I'm malicious or coming to expose any sort of secrets. I'm really just trying to expose the darkness that I don't want people that I care about, whether I know them or not, to be involved in. I don't want anybody to bring this stuff upon themselves. And so I hope that to those odd fellows out there that may listen to this or may think it's a dishonorable way to do this, I hope that using sources freely provided to anyone on Your Own Orders website is an acceptable way to at least bring the topic up. So yeah, thanks for allowing me, Dan, to kind of present some of that stuff.
Oh, anytime, man. Dan, I appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely.
Yeah, God bless you, man. And yeah, again, guys, if you belong to a secret society or odd fellows, just hit up Cody Cox on his email and talk to him, man. You know, we showed today the sources from the horse's mouth, and there you go. You know, so all right, thank you, sir, and we'll be in touch with you.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, God bless you.
You too, brother.
Yep, thank you. And that was Cody Cox there, guys, and awesome broadcast. So before we get going, guys, I want to take a moment. I botched it up when I mentioned it earlier. Sorry, David. So David wanted me to promote this. This is if you go to FOJCRadio.com, David Carrico's site, there's a sign up here. I put it in the chat room, and I'll try to put it in the comments later. So if you want to sign up for Choose You This Day, it's Wednesday, October 23rd. So what's going on here is it's October, and it's time to take a stand for holy days and against evil pagan holidays. And if you're willing to take a stand, just fill out the form below in FOJC Radio, and other ministry affiliates, which is me, Brian, and John Pounders, will read your name on location and decide during the Feast of Tabernacle celebration. It's October 17th to the 23rd, the real, biblical feast there. We plan to do this on Throne Room prayer time on Wednesday, October 23rd. So, and I'm going to be part of the series here. So, you got me, Jillian, David, Donna, Brian, John. So, the whole crew. So, we're all going to be part of this here. And again, it's taking the stand against these unbiblical holidays, you know what I mean? And to honor the biblical feasts and all that stuff. So, I'm going to put the link one more time. So, guys, to sign up. And this is the link there in the chat room. And again, if you go to FOJC Radio, this is their website. And that's a website there. A lot of content on the site. So if you go there and go to special events, click on special events, and there you go. You scroll down, sign up here. So choose this day, and then it's Wednesday, October 23rd coming up. And again, take a stand for the holy days against the pagan holidays. As we know, we got Samhain coming up, which is Hallows Eve, Halloween, All Saints Day, All Souls Day. Nothing to do with the Bible. Then you got Christmas. You know what I mean? That's another story altogether. It has nothing to do with Jesus Christ at all. And yeah, so we do shows every year on the stuff and exposing it. And that's what we're supposed to do. Expose the deeds of evil. Because I get questioned by a lot of Christians. You know what I mean? Like, oh, wow, Dar, you're a Christian, and why are you talking about this stuff all the time? And, well, because we're supposed to. We're supposed to know about the stuff and be wise about it, and so we don't fall for the deception ourselves. Because here's the problem. Like I said earlier, these organizations, these covens, these all kinds of evil stuff has infiltrated churches today. And it, makes me sick to my stomach. I mean, it really does. And you go to a church and Easter time comes, they got freaking Easter eggs in the churches. Christmas time comes, they get these freaking Christmas trees in the church. And the reason why I'm using that word for it, because it makes me sick to my stomach. Is if they knew what these things stood for. There's nothing to do with God at all. Nothing at all. It's complete opposite. And if they knew this stuff, they would understand. But, it's all money-making scheme. It's all about making money and misleading you. And we're going to do a bunch of shows coming up here. And I'm going to be part of this show as well. So, again, please sign up one more time, put in the chat room. And this is, this is what we need to emphasize every year. We do shows every year on Halloween. We do shows every year on Christmas and Easter and all these other holidays, right? Non-biblical holidays that disguise themselves as something good, something of Jesus, because of the Catholic Church has, brought all these holidays here and the confusion. And we do shows every year, and we're going to continue to do shows every year because we need to reach out to new people. We need to reach out to ourselves as well to constantly remind ourselves to stay away from these things. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you right now, my family, they do Halloween. They know I'm against it. And right now I'm just doing, again, it's just been an ongoing battle, because like my situation, it's between a rock and hard place. But all we could do, because I know many of you people watching right now, you're in the same field. You have even your own immediate family who do these things, but you don't. And the thing is, if we sit there and yelled at them and screamed at them, what you got to do is you literally got to drive your family away. And on top of it, all you got to do is push them further from God. So the only thing we could do is pray about it and lead by example. That's it. And, and pray that it trickles down to them. Because I'm sure everybody here watching that doesn't follow these pagan holidays, and I'm sure you got family that does, you know what I mean? So this is really real sensitive area, you know what I mean? So last year somebody posted pictures like, oh, look at Dan Bidondi, he's a hypocrite because there's Halloween decorations in the background and all that stuff. Yeah, everybody that's watched my show for the last 10 years, whatever I've been on, right? Everybody knows that my family celebrates those things. I don't. And I can't force them to not to, you know what I mean? And so you got to, and again, this is very critical because everybody here has got family and friends who do this stuff. So yeah, we can like stand up and go, yeah, I don't want this or that, and be all authoritative. But what you got to do is push them away from God. You got to push your family away. You don't want to do that. You know what I mean? All you can do is pray for them and lead by example. And hopefully, they could allow the seed to grow with them, with the Holy Spirit. So that's all I can say about that, man. Because, and again, I'm a very transparent person. If you belong to my Facebooks, I post everything. You know what I mean? I really do. The wrestling I do and everything else. And some people criticize me for stuff like that. But you know what? That's who I am. You know what I mean? I'm not perfect. Never claimed to be perfect. So I just want to get you, because I know this time, because what happens, we get attacked all the time. So what these people love to do is they love to they'll scour through your Facebooks, scour through all your social media, and look at that, oh, boom, and point that out to try to derail your ministry. That's what they do. And there's even pictures of me dressed in Halloween costumes. Yeah, from 6 years ago or so. Yeah, I did. Before I really opened my eyes to this. I knew at the time I knew it was evil, but I was still going to the parties and all that stuff. I stopped doing that like 4 or 5 years ago. I don't have no association with that stuff no more. But they'll point out, oh, look, there's Dan dressed as this or that at a Halloween party. Yeah, that was me. They're still online because my family and friends had these parties and all that. They still got the pictures up. I don't have any on my personal Facebook. I don't have those anymore. That's my former self. You know what I mean? So that's what they'll do. They'll like take hours to go through your stuff and friends and family to look for something incriminating against you. So I'm just warning you guys ahead of time because I'm sure they're going to try to do that again. Last year was ridiculous. I mean, these people were emailing John. They were emailing David. And they were also causing trouble with Brian, too. They were attacking me and Brian. to try to break this up, because me and Brian were doing the show for a while, at least a few years, Spiritual Warfare Friday, and they were looking at every little thing Brian does or me, you know what I mean, and they were trying to derail this whole operation. So that's what they do, and I forgive them, whatever the case. And I know some of them that were part of that. They're talking to me now, and they tune into the broadcast. So I don't take no grudges for nobody, and I love them, I forgive them. You know what I mean? And yes, if somebody is doing evil stuff, yes, it is our job to expose them. And if I'm doing something evil, yes, expose it, absolutely. But again, some of these people who do this in bad intentions to try to derail an operation. You know what I mean? And they do many things like that. John Pounders actually warned me about these things and how they'll infiltrate ministries and just to destroy them. And you even have people that come on, what they'll do is they'll become top donors, you know what I mean? And they'll say, oh, whatever you need, I'll give it to you and all that, just to get into the ministry or a church. And once they get the midst in the church and all that, they start causing corruption from within. You know what I mean? That's happened here. That's happened with IUC-TV. That's happened with FOJC. And Brian too, you know what I mean? All of us face people like that, you know what I mean? So there's many ways that these people try to infiltrate your ministry or your church and all that. Well, it's not my ministry, it belongs to God, you know what I mean? And the thing is, I'm not glorifying Dan Bidondi on this here, not at all. This is Spiritual Warfare Friday. It belongs to Jesus Christ. That's why I kind of dropped the Dan Bidondi show type thing. Because I know my YouTube channel says it, but I'm trying to get away from that because it's not the Dan Bidondi show. This show belongs to God. You know what I mean? This is about God, for God, His purposes. Not to glorify me, it's to glorify the Lord. You know what I mean? And that's why I tell people all the time, don't take what I have to say for granted at all. You just go read it for yourself and you'll see. That's why we provide all the documents. We provide all the sources and all that so you can see for yourself. Like the broadcast tonight, Order of the Oddfellows and the Secret Society. We went to the horse's mouth to show you from their own, sources. We did a show on Freemasonry and the Jesuits, within the last 6 months. A lot of shows on them, and we are showing you from their own sources, not from somebody's YouTube channel with a conspiracy theory. No, we showed you from their own sources. That's what we do here. That's what separates us from the so-called conspiracy theorists on YouTube, because we do homework on it. We actually go to, my library I have, right? I have Masonic and occult books. And I know we're not supposed to have those, okay? But for people like us who do this stuff, expose evil, we have to have these materials to show you from the horse's mouth. And the way I got it too, so basically I got a list of books, right? And I told my wife, if something happens to me, these certain books I want destroyed. I want burned in the fire pit in the yard. I don't want them sold or given to anybody. Destroy them. Because and I prayed over every one of these books to bind these books because of the spiritual significance with it. But again, like I say all the time, there's nothing wrong with somebody in the ministry that's well grounded in the faith to pick up one of these books, to read it. Not, you don't have to know the whole thing, but to know the enemy, because the Bible says to know your enemy. How are you going to know the enemy if you don't study him? Because, and I'll give you an example, years ago when I tried to witness to a Wiccan, they ate me up for breakfast. I knew nothing about Wicca. They destroyed me. So I learned about Wicca, the founder, and what you do is generally get into the founders. Look at the people, who they were. And most of the time it's complete opposite from what they're trying to portray. So look at who they were and everything about them. Then you could literally witness to people and tell them stuff that even the people who follow them didn't even know about. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of advice for people who want to get into this kind of stuff. And also be prepared to get spiritually targeted, because the target on you goes big, because the more you talk, the more you expose, the target gets bigger. But the good part of that is that target nothing can hit you, even though that target's giant, unless the Lord allows it to. And when it does, it's to teach you something or build you up better. You know what I mean? And so so every time Satan tries to attack you, the only darts that do get to you is what God allows, and only for His purpose, not Satan's. You know what I mean? So it's a good thing. And the thing is too, I'd rather see and expose evil and bring the light and truth to people than sit there and tell a bunch of lies and have 500,000 subscribers or whatever the case. So it's ridiculous. Me and John Hall, I haven't talked to him in a while actually. He kind of disappeared again. So if you're watching John, we miss you, man. So please pray for John and Patricia Hall. And it's been a while since I heard from them. But when me and John Hall used to do these broadcasts and all that, we were just like, if we could reach out to one person, we done our job, you know. And me and him were talking about this one day. Me, him, and Brian, when we did that show, that funny show we used to do. And so we watch other channels, right? They have a group of people all talking about dumb. I'm talking about complete stupidity. Who Britney Spears is dating, or what this football player is doing, whatever. And you should see the super chat, right? The super chat is where people donate. The guy made $2,000. One show we were watching, he made about $2,000 within an hour, talking about the nonsense. And I'm like, wow, John, if we made half that, you know how big these ministries would be? You know what I mean? We could do this full time. That's why I put a donation page up there, because we could do this full time, and I wouldn't even have to work a regular job. I got to work a full-time job to support my family. If we had, that kind of funding to do this, we could be on here every night of the week. I would love to do that. But, whatever the Lord gives us, you know what I mean? And that's, whatever the Lord gives us and provides for us, I'm blessed by that. You know what I mean? So, you see this nonsense all over the internet. A guy's got a Trump hat on. He's got all the memorabilia. I'm not bashing Trump or anything, but I'm just saying. And he's talking about the Q conspiracies, which they're dumb. And if anybody follows QAnon, guys, you got to realize they're psyops. They're not patriots. And anything they do tell you, it's most of the time. I actually can't talk about it on YouTube, so I'll shut up here. So, yeah, we got to respect YouTube's policy. So we're going to go to a questions and answers show, and I should have saved it for that. So let me put the link here. This is exclusively on our Rumble channel, so if you're not subscribed to Rumble, guys, please do so, or I'll create an account. And it's a questions and answer show. You can bring up any topic you want. You're not sensitive to what you say. And there's the... And thank you guys earlier if anybody donated. 50% of the proceeds, like I said, are going to go to Sister Valerie. Her and her family suffering some financial crisis right now, and we like to help people out at least once a month. And we're going to start doing that at least once a month, help somebody out that really needs it. And Sister Valerie, she's she's got 3 kids and everything else, and she's a single mother, and she moved into this new place, but there's some big issues going on. I don't want to give her business out, but she needs help financially, guys. So if you do donate tonight, and the ones who did, thank you so much. If you do donate, the link's in the description and also in the chat room here. And if you're on FOJCRadio Thursday, again, if you go into the description, that's where the links are. 4 different ways you could donate, and 50% of the proceeds will go to Sister Valerie to help her out. And I just pray that the Lord could help her out mainly with that stuff. So there's a link to the questions and answers show on the Rumble channel. And yeah, I'm a little tired tonight. I don't know if you guys can see that, but thank God I had a guest tonight, because I'm just like, it's just been a long week, and I'm just blessed that it's the weekend here and the Shabbat coming up. So hang on a second here. Let me get this up. And again, one more time, if you want to sign up to Choose This Day on FOJCRadio, and which we're going to do the shows on FOJCRadio on YouTube, and also the Doctrine of Christ. So go please check that out, and links are in the description too. So subscribe to the channels, and Brother Brian and Nice TV. And speaking of that, the Midnight Ride's coming up tomorrow night, 11 p.m. Eastern. David Carrico and John Pounders. It's going to be another doozy. Awesome shows on the Midnight Ride. And check out Brother Brian's show every Thursday. He's got a news show. It's pretty cool. So I forgot the exact name of it. News Not For Everybody. That's what it is. So, all right. So hang on one second. And yeah, I want to thank you all for tuning in here. And I want to discuss some of the symbolism. So we'll do that over at the other channel here, because I don't know what I can and can't say about that, because the anti-Semitism, not that we do, we're not anti-Semitism at all, you know what I mean? But you get the point. So, all right, guys, so we'll see you in a little bit over on Rumble channel. So actually, within 5 minutes, I'll be over there. So go get a drink, go to the bathroom, whatever you're going to do, and meet me over there. And if you tune in on Thursday, this show aired live on Friday the before, so the Friday, which is right now, September 20th of 2024. So, and if you want to go check out that show, the questions and answers show, there's a lot of good content on there. So, all right, so I'll shut up, and I'll see you in a few minutes. So God bless, shalom, and you are the resistance.